What's up, people? This is the Quant Edge video series presented by FantasySportsMarkets.com. He's my guy, Derek. I am Ben. FantasySportsMarkets.com. If you guys are looking for a place to play daily fantasy football this season, try it at FSM with no salary caps to worry about and use the promo code below for $5 free without a deposit required. D-Bro, we have to talk about AJ Green. Some bad news coming over the weekend as we are recording this episode. He's got some torn ligaments in his left ankle. He is expected to miss 6 to 8 weeks. Now, I know that he played 16 games in 2017, but this is a guy coming off a toe injury in 2018. He only played 9 games, and then 2 years before that, he only played in 10. So if we're looking at where his ADP is likely to fall to, how far does this injury push down AJ Green's ADP, and where would you feel comfortable selecting him at this point?
Well, we're looking at this before we turn the cameras on. He's fallen so far since the news. He's fallen 2 spots, and I think he's going to continue to fall.
From 307 to 309.
Yeah, I put him probably resting somewhere in the middle or beginning of the 5th round is where I think he's probably going to end up at, which we look at Tyler Boyd going at the beginning of the 6th. I think you could honestly make a narrative where both of these wide receivers are going in the 5th round eventually. And I'm kind of worried about that, Ben. I mean, honestly.
I think there's reason to be concerned, and in particular, you're looking at the A.J. Green situation, and it reminds you of another wide receiver that we used to have very high expectations on just a year ago.
Yeah, man, there are a lot of parallels here as far as with Doug Baldwin's situation in Seattle last year. He's a guy that went into training camps, preseason, beginning of the season, and there was a lot of injury concerns and worries, and while he didn't miss a lot of time per se, we did not see the Doug Baldwin of old. And so A.J. Green, a player that the injuries are starting to quickly pile up over the years. And as fantasy gamers and football fans in general, we hear the 6 to 8 weeks, and everybody just assumes, okay, after 8 weeks, he's going to be ready to roll. He's going to be ready to go and 100% A.J. Green. And I just definitely don't know if that's going to be the case. And considering what we saw from Doug Baldwin, very different players. But with A.J. Green, is he going to get to that point where I feel like he's going to be a supreme value and he's going to come back and be the guy that we've seen his entire career? I can't necessarily that's going to be the case.
I'm with you. I was very high on A.J. Green. I thought he was an absolute value based on where his current ADP was for the amount of consistency that we've normally seen from him. But once this news come out that he could miss the beginning of the season, that's what the reports are indicating, you certainly hold your breath a little bit. And I think that middle of the 5th round, depending on what your risk assessment is, if you feel like it's worth it, if you feel good about your wide receiver position, you want to go for the upside play. Certainly we'll talk a little bit more about the Bengals offense and why it's okay to feel optimistic about them as this season moves forward. But right now it's a messy situation. With regards to how this impacts Tyler Boyd, we've seen his ADP actually go up a couple slots after the AJ Green news went down. He's now at 602 compared to 604 from just a couple of days ago. So what do you think ultimately Tyler Boyd's projections look like? Because what's interesting is that it has less to do with the impact of A.J. Green being on the field and more about this quarterback that's throwing him the football in this situation.
Well, I think the easy thing and the thing that a lot of people do is they go over to the Quant Edge, they look at the injury tool, and they take A.J. Green off the field, and they say, all right, this is what it looks like for Tyler Boyd because of what we saw last year, target shares, all those types of things. But the other factor that needs to be discussed here is the fact that the quarterback position was also affected, Ben. So Andy Dalton missed a good chunk of last year when A.J. Green was out, and we saw Jeff Driscoll under center. So if you take Andy Dalton off the field, Tyler Boyd's target share with Andy Dalton on the field, the boss man himself, Elliott, put a tweet out and said, Andy Dalton on the field, 23% target share. Andy Dalton off the field, his target share fell to 13.6. So if we assume that the Red Rifle is back under center, with Tyler Boyd being the number 1 here for at least the first few weeks, and like we were talking about the concerns about A.J. Green, I think that a healthy Andy Dalton back this year in a new offense is a good thing for Tyler Boyd. I think that when we're looking at comparisons, we're using these tools and stuff, we also have to have context about what last year looked like too.
Right. And again, he played 16 games in 2016, only had 81 targets compared to a 14-game season in 2018 where Tyler Boyd had 108 targets with 76 catches for over 1,000 yards to go along with 7 touchdowns. He had a terrific year, and I certainly think with a newer age offense with Zach Taylor as the head coach, a 35-year-old guy coming from the Sean McVay family, we know all the jokes that took place over the offseason. If you were a mother, sister's brother of Sean McVay, you were likely getting a head coaching job. So I think the situation lines up well for him. Ultimately, though, how does the rest of the Bengals offense get impacted now with the loss of AJ Green? Where are you looking at Andy Dalton? Because I think coming in, people sort of looked at him and kind of dismissed him a little bit. But again, with a newer age offensive-minded head coach, people are looking at Andy Dalton as a halfway sneaky quarterback too.
I think he definitely could be a quarterback too for this year. It just depends. I mean, right now we're not even into preseason, and players are dropping like flies. The Bengals have been known, kind of like the Chargers of yesteryear, to lose half their depth chart and skill players before it even, the first whistle even sounds. So does that keep happening? And then we know that Tyler Eifert, a guy that is not known for his health either, a lot of this rides on what does this offense look like when we actually step into week one. And I think that the offense itself, there are definitely a lot of pieces to still like here. You still have Joe Mixon in the backfield. You still have Tyler Eifert if he's on the field. Tyler Boyd is a guy that I believe can ascend and be that number one option with or without A.J. Green. So if you use the wide receiver cornerback tool, you look at Tyler Boyd, small samples here, but as an outside wide receiver, he caught 20 of 25 targets with an 80% catch rate. You look at him versus all different types of coverage, zone, man, press, jam. His QBRs are above 112 for each one of them. Catch rates are stable at 68% or higher for each. So I think Tyler Boyd is an underrated guy. It gets characterized as being mostly a slot wide receiver. He definitely can ascend and be that number one option and play both inside and out. And that's a great thing for the offense and Andy Dalton.
All right, last question really quickly. How does this impact Joe Mixon? Is this going to cause more opportunities for him and get more targets, or is this going to close up opportunities in running lanes because a really good wide receiver is off the field? How do you see that impacting Joe Mixon?
I don't see it impacting Joe Mixon a ton in the sense that if you look at the injury tool, it did make a lot of difference for Joe Mixon last year. This is a very similar season that we saw him have towards the end of the season. I think he's still going to get fed volume. I don't think that it's going to really necessarily move my projection for him a lot. I already see him getting a bump in the passing game just with the different offensive system walking into this year.
One other guy that we are actually a little bit higher on because of this injury, and maybe he gets some pass-catching opportunities in the backfield, Gio Bernard, a guy that you might start to see his ADP rise up just a tad. But if you're watching now, if you're drafting early, maybe he's a guy that you can take advantage of and either draft super late or go ahead and have your eye on him for a possible free agent for this year. For more videos like this, make sure you guys are subscribed and following us on Twitter at the Quant Edge, at FSM Contest. Make sure you guys are checking out all the great work over at thequantedge.com and playing daily fantasy at fantasysportsmarkets.com. For Derek, I'm Ben. Thank you guys for watching. We'll talk to you soon.